Hi, and welcome back to another Papetti Math YouTube video tutorial where I'm going to be teaching you, yes, you, Algebra 1. And in this video, we are going to finish up our lesson on exponential and quadratic regression equations. At the end of this video, you will then have mastered linear regressions, exponential regressions, and also quadratic regressions for what you will be asked to do in Algebra 1. So in exercise number 4, we have a scatter plot that represents a set of data that was graphed on a coordinate plane. Which type of regression would best fit this data? Explain. So just looking at that set of data right there, we do have a pattern that we could see. And we could see that this pattern, for the most part, it goes up and then it comes back down for the most part, right? And with that pattern right there, what kind of function does that look like? And you should be thinking to yourself, quadratic. So you could tell that this is definitely not a linear, because a linear would be a straight line. It doesn't look like anything over here. Like it might fit some of the points, but not all of the points. So we don't want linear. And at the same time, using the same thinking, we don't want exponential, because exponential would look like this or like this, and we can't get that to fit the curve either. So this is going to be a quadratic regression equation. So how do we determine an equation that best fits this data? Well, we're going to have to set our calculators up to perform a quadratic regression, and we're going to need a list 1 value and a list 2 value. So we actually have all of these values. They're all the coordinates of each of these points. So we're going to have the coordinate 1, negative 2. And again, it doesn't matter the order that we write them in. We have 2, so I'll cross them off also as I do them, so I know I don't repeat any of them. We'll have 2 and 1, 2, 1. We have 2, 3. We have 3, 4. We have 3, 5. We've got 4, 6. We've got 5, 4. We also have 5, 6. We've got 6, 1. We've got 6, 3. And we finally have 7, negative 2. And that's all of our points on this graph right here. So now that we have our L1 and our L2, our X values and our Y values, we could go to our graphing calculators, clear out anything that's there, go to Stat and Edit. And again, we want to clear out those lists by clear, enter. And once we have our lists ready to go, I could just drag this screen over so I could see those values to make it easy for us. And I'm going to put in those values in the L1 first, and then I'll go over to L2 and line them up. So I'll do 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, and 7. I've got 11 values, so I should have 11 Y values as well. So I'm going to have negative 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 1, 3, and ending with a negative 2. All right. So now it's very good that my lines, my dashed lines line up at the bottom, which means I have the same number of L1 values as L2 values, which hopefully means I did something correct. So now that I've done that, I want to go to Stat and over to Calculate. And again, we said that this was the shape of a quadratic, so we're going to be using the quadratic regression equation, and we'll click Enter on that, scroll on down to Calculate. And when we click on Calculate, we have our A, our B, and our C values of our quadratic regression. And we want to determine the equation that best fits this data. So we're going to replace those values, and we're going to round each one to the nearest integer. So we're going to have negative 1. So we're going to have y equals negative 1x squared. Our b value to the nearest integer is going to be 7. So we're going to have plus 7x. And finally, minus 8 for our c value, because that's negative 8.8. 0.29 rounded to the nearest integer. So now that we have that, we're going to graph the equation on the same grid to determine if it is indeed a good fit for the data given. So I'm just going to move my video up to the top corner now. And there I am up in the top corner. How are we going to graph this equation? Well, let's go to y equals, where we're used to graphing. And we're going to put in the equation negative 1x squared plus 7x minus 8. Now that we've graphed that, we want our table of values in order to graph our table of values on this same graph. And we're going to start with the value of 0, negative 8. We can't fit that one on our graph, so we're going to actually start with 1, negative 2. So we're going to change up the color over here, make it red, why not? And we're going to have the point 1, negative 2. Well, that's a good start. We're right on top of a point. Let's see if it continues. We have the point 2, comma 2. All right, right between those 2 points. We have 3, comma 4. 3, comma 4. On another point. 4, comma 4. 5, comma 2. 6, and negative 2. So when we connect these points, we're going to try to draw the nicest quadratic we can. We go up and we come back down. So graph if it is indeed a good fit for the data. And I would say it started off being, but not really. We could have a better fit, I think. I think a better fit would go up and over around here. So I would say it's an okay fit. It could be better. But then we also want to remember that we rounded each of these numbers. And just by rounding a negative 0.8 to a negative 1 does change the quadratic quite dramatically. So we do want to take note of that aspect too, that all of these numbers are rounded and not exact values. If we had the exact values, then I would imagine that this graph would look more like that and go through more of them. But just by rounding those numbers up and down might shift the graph down to this one right here. So again, it's an okay fit, but that's also a reason why we shouldn't round our values unless they're asking us to, which in this case they were. So that's all for this exercise number 4 on lesson 6 in our chapter 12 study of statistics. We're almost done with our study on statistics, and that also means we're almost done with our Algebra 1 curriculum. So if this video was helpful on how to create a regression equation of a quadratic based on a graph of points, and then determining if the graph or the line of best fit, the curve of best fit was a good fit for the data, give this video a thumbs up to let me know that I helped you out with quadratic regression. Otherwise, we're good to go with lesson number 7 in chapter 12 on statistics, and I look forward to seeing you there.